National Defense issued a stark warning about the state of military recruitment.
If what you have been doing for decades is no longer working for you, you can't just keep doing it. And over the past 3 years, more people have left than have entered. That is frankly, it's a death spiral for the Canadian Armed Forces. We cannot afford to continue on that pace. We've got to do something differently.
Frankly, Canada should reduce its military spending. We have too much debt and taxes are too high. In order to cut taxes, we need to reduce government spending across the board, including on our military. Canada is blessed geopolitically. We really do not need to have an army right now, and can't even afford the one we have. We should be making substantial reductions to military spending. A good transition program would be to reduce the military budget from $30 billion to $10 billion over a 4-year time period. Not only would this release much-needed funds to cut taxes and reduce the deficit, but formerly employed members of the military would transition into the private sector economy, where they could use their military skills to contribute to Canada's economic growth.
Government's investments in the military when asked about the state of the Canadian Armed Forces.
Over the past years, every single year this government has invested more in defense. We're going to continue to make sure that the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces have the tools necessary to step up.
So what does this all mean for the state of Canada's military? Retired Lieutenant General Guy Thibault is the chair of the board of the CDA Institute and a former vice chair of chief of the defense staff. He joins me now. General, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Hey, David, thank you for having me.
We got two very alarming comments and revelations, I think, about the state of the military this week. And I want to start with the first one from my colleague Murray Brewster. The internal report says only about 58% of Canada's military could be mobilized if there was an urgent need to support NATO. What does that tell us about the state of the armed forces in this country?
So I really appreciate Murray's coverage of this. It's talking about essentially the readiness of the Canadian Forces to undertake the missions that the Government of Canada has asked of it. And it covers materiel readiness, it covers the people readiness, it covers the overall sustainment ability of our operations. And so from the perspective...
I think the better question is, should Canada be engaging in missions at the behest of NATO or the UN overseas in the first place? And if our membership in NATO entails continued overseas operations, then perhaps it is time to question whether we should even remain in NATO. Surely the lesson of World War I as to the dangers of entangling alliances should be clear. Because of the Triple Entente and the Triple Alliance, a small regional conflict rapidly evolved into a global war. A better model for foreign policy is Switzerland's approach of armed neutrality. Instead of trying to engage in nation-building, peacekeeping, or any other foreign military adventurism, we should have a policy of keeping Canadian troops on Canadian soil at all times. Friendship and commerce with all nations, entangling alliances with none.